By now, you should know that your CPF and SRS are both good avenues for you to top up and contribute to it so that you can enjoy some tax relief. And I've talked about both of them extensively on my channel, so in this video, let us just compare between the CPF and the SRS, which one is better for you to contribute to it first. But before that, let me just cover a few assumptions first, because for CPF, I will only be highlighting on the SA, the special account, and the Medisave account. The reason is because you can only top up to your SA and your Medisave account directly. For the ordinary account, you cannot really top up to it directly. You can only do it through like indirect contributions like your VC3A, voluntary contribution to your 3 account, and that itself is not eligible for tax relief. So for the purpose of this video, in terms of CPF, I will just be talking about voluntary contribution to your Medisave account and retirement sum top up to the special account. Also, for the purpose of this video, I will just be talking about people who are eligible for both CPF and SRS, and that will include people who are Singaporeans or PRs, because for foreigners, I don't think they are eligible to contribute to CPF, be it mandatory or voluntary contributions anyway. First up, let's start off with the interest rates, right? Because I know you all must have been very knowledgeable about the interest rates of CPF being 4% in your SA and 4% in your MA. I think this is very common knowledge, but do you actually know how much is your SRS, your supplementary retirement scheme account getting in terms of interest rate? Well, what I can say is that it is as good as your bank interest rate of 0.05%, because it just functions like a normal bank account, right? Imagine it being like 0.05% like your low deposit savings account. I think there's really not much benefit if you just hold cash inside your SRS account. So in order for your SRS to really work it out, you have to force your SRS to make it work, okay? And how do you make it work is that you can actually invest your SRS into various different financial products. You can invest your SRS in stocks, invest them in ETFs, invest them in unit trusts, or you can even buy like insurance products if your insurer offers them. So that is just on your interest rate part, right? Your CPF will earn compounded interest of 4% through your SA or your MA, whereas for SRS, there's really very little interest to speak of. In fact, it is really negligible unless you put your SRS into good use. Secondly, let's talk about liquidity, because I know liquidity is a big topic for CPF, especially when the CPF rule states that you can only withdraw your CPF at age 55 when you have at least met the full retirement sum if you have not pledged a property. So it is an irreversible decision. Once you have put in money in the CPF, be it your retirement sum top up or your voluntary contribution to your Medisave, then you must have the expectation that you can only touch your funds when you have reached at least age 55 or until age 65 when your CPF life payouts have been enabled. Also, if you remember about transferring your ordinary account funds to your special account and you do that process, you'll see that the CPF board always warns you that this is a long-term and irreversible decision, and should you need the money back, you cannot do it. So like they have all these kind of caveat emptors, like really warning you that it is an irreversible decision. And that is why a lot of people also don't believe in CPF, because it is really illiquid. You really have to see how important is liquidity to you. If you want to start a business, if you want to buy a home, if you want to get married, if you want to renovate your house, all these will involve huge capital and huge cash. So you really want to compare whether you need this liquidity, and if you don't need it, then you can put it in the CPF for long-term gain. Now let's talk about SRS liquidity, right? Because SRS, the huge benefit is that you can actually withdraw your SRS anytime, even though you are below the retirement age. The condition is that whatever amounts that you withdraw will be taxed at additional 5% penalty, which means that on top of the 100% of SRS that you withdrawn is taxable, you have to add in additional 5%, because that is a penalty to really discourage people from withdrawing their SRS before they hit the retirement age. The statutory retirement age currently is 63 after July 1st, 2022, right? So if you have started your SRS before July 1st, 2022, then your retirement age is maybe 62. That's for me, because I really did my contribution of SRS before July 1st, 2022. So from here, you can see that your SRS is really more liquid. You can actually reverse your decision, just that you have to pay a 5% penalty if you really need the funds. And of course, if you really don't need the funds, which is what I really encourage you all to do, just keep it to your statutory retirement age. Then you can just withdraw it without any penalty. Next up, let's talk about the tax relief amounts and limit, right? So firstly, for CPF, I'm sure you have heard of the CPF changes since 2021, because now your retirement sum top up to your SA and voluntary contribution to your MA has a combined limit of $8,000 a year, and that means you can only contribute up to $8,000 for your self top up or voluntary contribution, and anything above that will not be eligible for tax relief. And then if you look at SRS contribution limits for Singaporeans and PRs, the limit is $15,300, which is almost double of the $8,000 of CPF that we talked about, right? But please don't forget that SRS is just a tax deferral scheme, which means that you are just pushing your tax from the current period to your future period when you have reached the time when you want to withdraw. But of course, SRS is a tax advantage account. That means that only 50% of the withdrawals will be taxed when you have at least reached the statutory retirement age. So meaning currently if you withdraw your SRS from age 63 onwards, only 50% of it will be taxed. And if you withdraw it before you reach the statutory retirement age, you will be taxed at 100% plus a 5% penalty that we talked about earlier. Do you like to drink coffee like me? Because you will be glad to hear that Moomoo is giving you $2 every day for you to buy your coffee. Brand new users who have subscribed to Moomoo Cash Plus portfolio holding $100 and above will get daily $2 of cash coupon into their Moomoo accounts. Now if you multiply 30 times $2, you get $60 back. That is 60% ROI based on the amount that you invested being $100. And if you don't know what Moomoo Cash Plus is, it is basically a cash management strategy for you to park your excess cash and get up to 2% annual returns. Well, the good thing about Moomoo Cash Plus is you can withdraw your funds anytime, but at the time that you withdraw, you will forfeit your daily $2 coupon. If you're worried about Moomoo running away with your money, then you will be glad to hear that Moomoo is actually licensed by the Monetary Authority of Singapore, and they are also insured by the US SIPC, which protects up to $500,000 worth of the customer's funds. Anyway, if you do not have a Moomoo brokerage account yet, then remember to sign up using my link, because you can get a chance to spin the stock wheel and try your luck to get one free Amazon shares worth up to 200 Singapore dollars right now. Next up, let's talk about the products that you can invest using both your CPF and your SRS. What are the products really offered for these two avenues of tax relief? If we talk about the MediSave account, you are unable to invest it. You can only use it to buy integrated shield plan and maybe pay off a small amount every year for your medical bills. That's all you could do about it for the MediSave. But for special account, although you can invest it, but the products offered for special account that is eligible for SA funding is not a huge variety. In fact, if you look at the products offered for SA investments, they are quite weak. So it's definitely not recommended for you to invest your SA. Most people would really just put in the SA to earn 4% risk-free instead of risking it in places where you can suffer a capital loss. But for the SRS, it's a whole new different ball game, right? The purpose of SRS is really for you to make investments, and if you don't invest your SRS, there's really no purpose to it, because it will just be earning a very low interest rate. For SRS, you can invest in the following, like Singapore listed stocks, ETFs, unit trusts through robo-advisors like Endowers and Money Owl. You can even invest in the S&P 500 ETF known as S27 through Poems Cash Plus. So really, if you are contributing to SRS, you really need to make the effort to go and look at what products you want to invest in. Whereas for CPF, you don't have to worry about it, because your compound interest of 4% will take care of it even if you don't do any kind of investments. So maybe some of you may ask, what is my personal take on CPF versus SRS? So I'll share about some of my personal journey. In fact, I started with CPF, topping up to the CPF, because during that period, I don't think there are really very good products that the SRS can offer. In the past, we don't have like robo-advisors, we don't have like low-cost brokerage where you could invest in the S&P 500 ETF. We also don't have the Singapore savings bond being such high interest. I think previously it was really like between 1 to 2%, which is not too enticing. But if we look at the current investing and finance environment, we have a whole new different level of products to offer, right? Your robo-advisors like Money Owl and Endowers, which I've talked about extensively on my channel, really do offer very competitive SRS products that you can invest in. In fact, it's like a 100% equity unit trust that can even fetch you like average 7 to 10% in a good bull market environment. Then if you want to look at the US market, S&P 500, you can look at Poems Cash Plus offering you no minimum brokerage fees where you can invest in ticker S27. And the update right now is that you can even buy 1 unit of S27. No more minimum lots, right? Last time it's like minimum you need to buy 10 units of ETF. Now the rule has been changed, so you could just buy 1 unit of S27 every month as a dollar cost average strategy. And even in year 2022, where we have really high interest rates in the Singapore savings bond, up to 3% for the August 2022 issue. And that would be a really good opportunity for low-risk conservative investors to park their funds in the Singapore savings bond, because maybe these people prefer a slow and steady approach instead of looking at stock market fluctuations in the equity market that can really be uncomfortable for some long-term investors. So yes, here is my take of the CPF versus SRS debate. Which camp are you on? Do you prefer to contribute to your CPF first or your SRS first? I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. It really depends on your preferences, and I hope that I have laid out all the factors that you should consider before deciding which one to top up to. And if you want a more detailed comparison between topping up your CPF versus buying the Singapore savings bond, then you can look at my previous video right here, because I'll compare the pros and cons of doing each strategy. With that, thank you for watching. My name is Christopher. This is Honey Money SG, steering young adults to financial independence.